my 6th take on the Ask Alanea self-publishing video series. I just finished my May chit chat, so I thought I'd be able to just zip through and answer some questions, and no. I looked down and I had been talking for almost 40 minutes and I was on question number 2. So I really have to rein myself in and give shorter answers. But the problem is the answers are so involved that it's not yes, no. It's like, I believe this because of this, because of this. So you have like this snowball effect for answering. And I want to give as much information as possible. So what I'm going to do is I have set a timer and I will talk for 15 minutes. I will answer as many questions as I can in 15 minutes. I don't want these videos to be super long because nobody's going to sit here and listen to me ramble for 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes. So I will do as many questions as I can. And I will say, this is a topic for further discussion. If you are interested, please send me an email. My email is alenaalder@yahoo.com, and based on the number of replies, I might do a follow-up video with more information about said topic. I think that is the best way I can do this. Self-publishing, I have found that when you first start, you are standing on this tiny little iceberg, but what you don't know is the 90% below the water. And what I'm hoping that these videos will do is expose the 90%. So even if you watch my video and you say, wait a minute, what's that? I have exposed another part of that iceberg because you don't know what you don't know. You can't ask a question about a topic that you don't realize you have no exposure to yet. So two-part purpose of these videos is to get as much information about self-publishing out there as possible. I wish I had something like these videos when I started, and at the very least expose you to the very number of aspects of self-publishing so that at the end of the video, if you have to go Google something, you can. You now know something that you don't know. Makes sense? Hope so. All right, jumping in. Marty Maxwell asks, do you do your own formatting? Yes and no. I do all of my ebook formatting. I don't do any of my print formatting because I like to stay sane. It's so involved, and there probably is an easier process. I personally would rather just pay the $60 to have somebody do it. I go through the Killian group. Jen takes wonderful care of me. So I don't do any of my print formatting, but I do all of my ebook formatting. I use Scrivener. I think that for me, basically a lot of the feedback that I've seen about Scrivener, either you love it or you hate it. I am in the camp of I love it. I spent $40 for it. It allows me to format at the push of a button for all my distributors. So, see, I told you it's snowball. But anyway, with Scrivener, as long as you have the Kindle Gen plugin, I'm able to compile for Mobi. I'm able to compile for EPUB, which will give me a book to upload for iTunes, Kobo, and Nook. And when I say it's at a push of a button, the hardest part about Scrivener is figuring out how to set up the book so that when you hit compile, you end up with a ebook. There's a little bit of learning curve for that, but once you figure it out, you're golden. I don't have to pay for ebook formatting, ever. So yeah, I did spend the extra time, and honestly, it was just one night where I would like compile. Well, why does that say, untitled document instead of chapter 1? Well, then I tweaked the setting and then compiled, and then it said chapter 1, chapter 1. No. So once you figure out all the little settings to correct and have it set up for you, you're fine. So formatting is not hard. It is not something to be feared. Here's the first one. If you want more information about how I have the book set up for me in Scrivener, send me an email or comment down below. I will try to give as much information in a succinct way, might do a screen share. I don't know. But if that's something that you want more information on, just let me know. I'm going to the next question. I'm trying to be so quick. It's like I want to be quick, but I also want to make sure I answer the question fully and give you as much information as possible. But anyway, next person, I'm going to butcher your name, and I am sincerely sorry. Janine, Riani? Can I call you Jana? Hi, Jana. Okay, so she asks, she asked 3 beautiful questions, but they are like landmine snowball questions. Like, whoo, I can go out in the stratosphere with the answers for these, but I will try to stay on task here. First question is it expensive to self-publish? There are 2 branches for this. I'm going to identify number 1, and then I will go over to number 2. Number 1, if you are referring to the situation where you pay somebody to publish your book, don't do that. Run away, delete their email, forget you ever saw their website. You should not have to pay someone to publish your book, period. Even when you submit to a publisher, they pay you. So you shouldn't have to pay a publisher to be published. Now, if you are referring to the expenses involved in self-publishing, I can go with you there. Honestly, it can be as expensive as you want it, or it can be as cheap as you want it. I wish I had a more concrete answer, but it really is. You can spend $3,000 on a book cover. You can spend $6,000 on editing. You can spend another $4,000 on ads. And then you can put your book out and nothing happened. And it's going to take you 4 years to recoup the costs. Because that's a lot of money. Or it can be as cheap as you want it. Doesn't necessarily mean you're putting out an inferior product. It just means you don't have the budget for it. For example, My Commander was put out. Now, I'm going to put a caveat there. I had already purchased ISBNs. Because when you go to publish and you go through CreateSpace or Amazon, it asks you to input an ISBN. If you don't want to pay for one, that's fine. They provide one, but just know that on Amazon or any other distributor, it will say distributed by Amazon. It won't have a publishing imprint. I personally wanted a publishing imprint, so I spent the $575 and got a block of 100 ISBNs so that it is associated with my publishing company. You don't have to do that. But there's expense number 1. I spent $75 for the My Commander book cover, for the ebook cover. I didn't have enough money to buy print yet. I was living off of a severance package. So I spent $75 for the ebook cover, and then that was it. That was my budget. And I had my wonderful straight team help me with edits. And I'm not going to lie, My Commander was published with a shit ton of typos. But it got my book out because I could not afford more. And the money I made from that paid for the editing for book 2. And the money I made from book 2 paid for the editing for book 3. And the money I made from book 3 paid for editing for books 1 and 2. So, to go back and get it re-edited. So yeah, my shoestring budget was $75 for My Commander. Now, my budget now, which I actually have a business budget, I'm doing a little bit better. I still spend $75 for an ebook cover. I spend $125 to $200 for my print-on-demand covers, but that's because I go through CreateSpace and Lightning Source. I use both distributors, so that's why it's a little more expensive. I spend $60 for my print formatting, so that's like, what, 60 plus $275, and then I spend about $650 on average for editing, and so that brings me to about $985 to about $1,000. But then I always factor in $1,000 for my giveaways because I do a giveaway for every book, so that's part of my budget now. So you tack on another $1,000. I average about I put aside $2,000 per book. But that, like I said, that's 2 years later. If you first get started and you're like me and it's shoestring budget, pay for the cover. Pay for the cover. Because nobody's going to click on a janky looking, it looked like it was done in Word Paint in 1993. No one's going to click on that to find out that you have perfect editing. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. Pay for the book cover. Unless you don't have a very firm grasp of the English language, for the most part, readers will be able to, they'll notice the typo, but they'll be able, if they're into the story, they will be able to kind of glaze over them. You might still get a comment like, I wish this, like one of my reviews, I freaking love it. It's like a 2 or 3, like 2-star review from my commander. It's like, this author has a fear of commas. Totally true. I hate commas. I don't understand where they go. But they still read, they even in the review, they said I enjoyed it. So, but they wouldn't have even read the book if they didn't have a decent cover. Also, side note, once you have that janky cover, later on, if you go back and pay for a banging cover and you get it replaced, that janky cover is on the internet forever. And it's going to be forever associated with your name because your name's on it. So, I know a lot of authors will say, no, you have to pay for editing. Readers are very forgiving, for the most part. But you're not going to even get their attention if you don't have good cover. So, like I said, I kind of answered that question. It can be super expensive or it can be as budget friendly as possible. It just depends on what your budget is. Is it possible to publish for $100 or less? Yes, I did it. So, now here's the aspects that you should be looking at. Formatting. If you're not going to be doing your own formatting, you will have to pay for it. Book cover, editing, and then maybe an ISBN. That's pretty much it. I still don't use ads. I don't do Facebook posts. Every once in a while, I'll boost a post if I think it's funny of mine. But I don't have any marketing techniques or anything like that. I don't have a budget for it. My budget for that is my giveaways. I would rather take that money and turn around and give my readers stuff than to pay for a Facebook ad that may or may not reach people. Okay, what are the downsides of self-publishing? There aren't any. If anything, it still has a stigma, it still has a stigma of being self-published. But I've hit the USA Today bestseller list as a self-published author. There are authors out there that have hit New York Times bestseller as a self-published author. It's still a downside because we're not, the only downside I want to say is when we are dealing with print. We still have that stigma of being self-published. We're not going to be in a brick and mortar store unless you launch your own little mini campaign and you are calling different stores and you're speaking to managers and you're speaking to corporate at Barnes & Noble or something like that to get your book into the store. For the most part, that's one of the reasons I went dual distributor. I have CreateSpace and I have Lightning Source. Lightning Source allows me to offer the book at a 55% wholesale discount, which is what retailers need to distribute your book, and it also allows them to be able to return it. So it's returnable, and I can do that with Lightning Source, and I can't do that with CreateSpace. And even then, after all that, there's still no guarantee that I'll ever appear in a brick and mortar. But that's the only downside. I still have the readers. I still have, their loyalty and their enthusiasm. I'm type A, so I love being able to do the business side of it and to learn the formatting and keep track of my sales and spreadsheets and numbers and stuff like that. If you are not businessy, like if you just want to write and the idea of being on social media and managing accounts and, distributing and being your own vendor and whatnot, if that gives you hives, then maybe self-publishing isn't for you. You might be better suited with a publisher that can take care of that for you. But for me, I love being able to control every aspect of it. And if I need to make oh crap, I need to make a correction on page 2, I pull it, I correct it, I upload it. Do you know how long that would take with a publisher? So I like being able to have complete control of my project. Like I said, the only downside is sometimes that slight stigma that's still involved with being self-published. But that's other people's perceptions. That's not really me. How did you get started in self-publishing? I kind of tossed myself into the deep end. This is an old story. I was laid off of my job. I've been working with them for like almost 10 years. In 2014, I had a few books out with Siren, so I had a very small readership, and I wanted to make a go of it. And so I started self-publishing because I knew in order to support myself, I needed 70% of my royalties instead of the 20-25% that I'd be getting from a publisher. And that's how I got started. I literally sat down and said, this is what I'm going to do. And I started Googling. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was Googling, and I would listen to a video and somebody would mention something and I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, what was that? I wish I had my notebook. I had like a notebook, and every time something popped up, I'd write it down, and then I would go back and investigate, and what do I need to do? So I really wish I had that now, especially since I'm going to be doing videos about the processes. But yeah, I kind of just, both feet just jumped in. I kind of like just figured it out on the way, which is another reason, like I said, I really want to get these videos done for people so they have a better jumping point than I did. Next set of questions. Where are we at? Time? Oh, we're at the 16-minute mark. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, so these are also very, very good questions, so I'm actually going to stop here. I know you guys are like, wait, what they ask? Don't worry, I will get to them in next week's video. But that's it. That's all I got time for. I did want to try to keep this under 15 minutes. Right now we're at 17. By the time I quit talking, it'll probably be about 19. I'm sorry. But if you have any questions about the topics that was discussed, or if you want clarification or anything like that, like I said, send me an email, alenaalder@yahoo.com, and I will try to respond back to them or answer them in the next video. If there are certain topics that you want more information on or processes, put that down below. And that's it. Like I said, I really hope that I was able to answer some questions and gave you some information. In the long run, I'm hoping that this series of videos will provide at least exposure to the self-publishing industry. If you have any suggestions, I welcome those as well. And until I see you next time.